Hi there, I'm Jake Humphrey. You're listening to High Performance, the podcast that delves into the minds of some of the most successful athletes, visionaries, entrepreneurs and artists on the planet, and aims to unlock the very secrets to their success. Look, everyone needs a professor in their life, and mine is also an author and an expert in the success of sports teams. It's Damien Hughes. Look, Damien, as a Man United fan, I imagine you're looking forward to this.
Very much looking forward to it. This is somebody that was a catalyst when they came into Manchester United, so I'm intrigued to find out a little bit more about the mentality of a catalyst.
Okay, well, let's get going then and welcome a footballer who is arguably one of the greatest strikers to win the Premier League, a cult hero at Arsenal. He controversially left to join their arch rivals at the time at Manchester United and immediately achieved his aim of winning the title. These days, the former Dutch international spends his time working as a pundit for BT Sport, but it's his career as a top-level athlete that we are really interested in. Robin Van Persie, welcome to High Performance.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Nice to be with you. Right, let's get straight into it then. In your mind, what is high performance?
High performance as well. It's performing at the highest level, and that's always difficult because at the highest level you have to compete with opponents who are on a similar level, but you still want to be better than them. So how do you do that? And that's a thin line. It's tricky, but if you succeed, then it makes it more interesting and more satisfying, I think. But that process is a long process to reach that goal. To be on that level. Thanks, Kim.
Coffee's arrived.
Coffee's arrived. Yeah, to be on that level, which is satisfying for yourself. Because that's a long process.
So when did you think that you achieved high performance, Robin?
Well, in my mind, when I was at my highest level, I was about 27, 28, personally. So that's a very long road until that moment. And that starts basically from very young, from 5, 6 years old. You start that process without realizing it. But I was at my peak personally, mentally, physically. Around that age.
So how would you have defined yourself? So when you were delivering high performance at that age, beyond the physical attributes of being fast and fit and strong, what were the sort of behaviours that you would describe you were demonstrating during that time of high performance?
Yeah, during that period, everything came together. It's like physically, mentally, more in balance. I was quite impulsive when I was younger, in my reactions, the way I was talking, the way I was behaving, the way I was playing. And that slowly changed over the years because just by basically listening, looking, learning and improving myself as a person at the start. And then I brought that back into football because at one point I realized that every game was such a struggle, and I didn't really want that. I didn't want to have a constant struggle.
In what way was it a struggle?
It's like because the opponents found out that if they triggered me, if they talked to me in a certain way, or if they did all those things, they could get me sent off.
What would wind you up?
If there were, but it was going both ways because if the opponent was like stepping on my toes and sort of trying to bully me, I was going really hard and I was going against it. But in the end, after a period, I started to think about that, and then it made sense to me. I was like, okay, the reaction I have, I shouldn't have that reaction. I shouldn't go against it. I should stand above it. So that is like a process of a couple of years, because if I go against it, then it will. Then it's such a struggle. I was just like mentally, physically, I was drained after every match for quite a long time, from the age of 23 till 26, roughly there. I was just knackered after every game.
But was there a particular light bulb moment when something came on and you thought, I need to be doing something differently here? Or was it just a gradual process?
Yeah, that was just, I was talking to my wife actually about it. I was telling her that it cost me so much energy, like every game. And then she said, okay, but you have to find a way to make that less, because then it becomes more enjoyable, everything. And I said, yeah, but how? And then we spoke about that, and then I realized that I was like constantly fighting, you know. And then she made one comment like, yeah, but you have to choose your battle. I was like, yeah, you know, I don't want to fight these small battles. I want to go for bigger ones, you know. So then I said, okay, what if and as well, I was, if I missed a chance, for example, that's a process as well. I was very emotional after I missed a chance. I was like constantly, no, and showing the world how disappointed I was. And then at one point I was like, yeah, but that's weakness somewhere, you know, because then the opponent sees that I'm disappointed and that I'm not happy with myself. So I slowly started to change that. And I was like, okay, you know, if I don't show my weakness, then they don't have like, if I don't react on the bullying, if I don't react, if I miss a chance, then I become stronger and better. And once I started to do that, I talked with Arsène Wenger about this as well, and then everything became lighter. You know, it was so heavy. It was for all those years. It was heavy, but I was making it heavy.
Yeah,
I just needed a couple of years to realize that.
But what I find interesting on that, Robin, is that I think that takes real courage to have that reflection, because what you'd been doing had obviously worked for you. You know, like when you look back at the start of your career of leaving ex-Chelsea and then the run-ins that you'd had with the coach at Feyenoord, that you'd obviously been fighting and resisting it, and you'd still been achieving success.
Yeah, but that was because of the love of the game, because I truly love football. From the bottom of my heart, I love it. And that is what, sort of saved me in a way. Because I made some stupid mistakes over the years, you know, some silly ones.
What sort of things did you do?
From arguing to with all the players, you know. It's like you have to know your place as well. In football, it's like when you're young, that's your place. You have to earn the right, basically. And I wasn't doing that. I was very impulsive. I was very against the rules somehow. And why was I doing that? Why was I against?
What do you think? I wonder whether you almost felt you needed to be like that to show you cared and to show you wanted to be the best. You know, you didn't want to just cruise into training and cruise through training and cruise through a game. You almost felt you needed to have a battle every game to show to your teammates and yourself. Yeah, this matters.
It was going too far. It was going too far and was becoming a problem, because I wasn't creating nice stuff. I was making problems for myself. You know, I had arguments with coaches where I look back at it now. I think, Robin, you know, you should have done better there. And a big, like an important thing in that is communicating. You know, I wasn't really expressing myself good enough just to solve the problem, because most problems started with communication. If you just talk about it in a normal way, you can solve a lot of possible problems. And so over the years, I kept asking questions, and I even wrote stuff down to myself. So at one point at Arsenal, after 2 years, I wasn't satisfied. I wasn't happy. It was going okay, but not good enough. So I started to write a letter to myself. Right. I was like, okay, what are my positives and what are my negatives? Wow. And I was like writing them down. And then I noticed that I was lying to myself. I was making myself feel better.
Really?
So, yeah. So by reading it back, I was thinking, that's not true, Robin.
And did you do that on your own, or did your wife help you with that?
Yeah, well, I was talking with my wife a lot and with my friends, and then that is something as well. Friends, but we can talk about that later. Friends have an influence. Everyone in your life has an influence. And you need to, at one point, you need to be very honest to yourself. If those people in your life, whoever it is, if it's your wife or your friends or your family, have a positive impact on your life. And I think if you aim for to be the best in your sport, in this case, you have to be ruthless at one certain point. You have to cut out the people who bring negativity, and that is very hard.
How did you do it? Because there will be people listening to this podcast and they're not professional athletes.
Yes.
But they find their life is made more difficult by the people around them, or maybe they drain them. What process did you go through to decide quite ruthlessly who could no longer be part of your life?
Yeah, and that is if you just look back at the period before. So at one point I was ending up in situations where I just didn't want to end up in. And it wasn't my fault. It was the fault of the people I was around with. And I was thinking, yeah, but okay, this is not bringing me further. You know, I have a dream. I want to live my dream. And so just by looking and because I had this romantic idea of my childhood friends, they should always stay with me. They should always stay connected. And I want them in my life forever. But okay, we have a different life. So at one point, I just made a roundup of what they bring, what they offer me, because I'm giving them time. In some cases, I gave them money. I tried to help them. But what do they give me? They have to, at one point, they have to accept what the situation is of their life and my life. And they have to sort of somehow live by those unwritten rules. And some of my childhood friends didn't do that. And so they could not follow. They could not follow me because I was going fast in my life. I had my dreams and I was following them. And so the only thing they brought in the end, so I just rounded it up and I said, okay, what does this person offer me? And it had nothing to do with money. It was just, do they bring something positive in my life? Anything, even if it's something small, it's fine.
Yeah.
But they weren't at one certain point. And then I just invited them. And I said to two of my childhood friends, I said, guys, I love you, I respect you, but I have different dreams than you guys. So it will stop here.
Wow.
It will stop.
And how old were you when you were having this conversation?
24, 25.
Wow.
Yeah, and these guys I knew from a young age. I said, because you make different choices, you have different priorities than me, and I can't have that. I can't have negativity in my life because this is where I want to go to. And if I have to constantly lose energy on you guys, it's not going to help me. That's ruthless, that's hard. But I felt that I needed to do that.
There's a really nice way of describing that it's often, we talk about the people that come with us are with us for seasons, reasons, or lifetimes.
Mm-hmm.
So some people are there because it's just a time of your life, like your childhood friends. Some are there because you work together, and then some people are there with you right the way through on the whole journey.
Yeah.
And I think to recognise that at such a young age is...
you have periods, you have phases with people in your life. But in my case, because I'm quite intense, I'm all or nothing. And so I had to bring that level down of myself as well. I had to take it a little bit softer. That was a process of many years as well to realize like, okay, it doesn't need to be that intense, with certain people. It can be lighter. So in my private life, I started to have friendships which were lighter, not so intense. And that cost less energy, so I could focus more on football. So, but it was a long process though, over the years. But in the end, I think I managed it quite well. But it was like a constant learning curve. But the main thing I think for everyone who's listening as well is that keep asking yourself even stupid questions. Keep asking them to yourself and write letters to yourself of how it's going.
Do you remember what was in the letters?
Yeah, it was like, but that letter I wrote to myself was more about me as a player, what I liked about myself, what I could improve.
What from memory? What could you improve? What did you write down in the improve column?
Goals. I should score more goals. I should make more runs in behind because I was back in the day. I was dribbling and I wanted the ball in my feet, and then by talking to. Saul Campbell, Thierry Henry, Bergkamp, Perez, all these guys. Saul told me once, he said, Robin, the way you play is a dream for a defender like me. I said, why? Tell me why. He said, because you want every ball in your feet. I can just stay there, relax, sit back and enjoy the game or training. He said, so you have to force me to make a choice, to close you down or to follow you. You have to make runs in behind. So I was like, okay, hang on. So then I asked myself the question, do I make enough runs in behind? Then I came up with the rule, okay, out of 3 actions, at least one of them needs to be in behind because I have to hurt the defenders because Sol Campbell told me he doesn't like it.
Yeah.
You know, so I was like constantly asking myself questions and listening to players who were better than me.
Brilliant. There's a really nice piece of research. There's a story on this. It's called, what you're describing is something that is sometimes referred to as the Sunda Letter, and it's named after, there's a conductor in Boston called Benjamin Zander.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was teaching sort of appreciation of music and the arts and things like that, one of the things he found with his students was that they got too caught up in the result that they were getting rather than learning about the process of appreciating music. So he used to get them to write a letter to themselves, but base it 12 months in the future and talk about all the things that they were going to achieve and all the things they were going to learn to love about music.
Yeah.
And then as long as they wrote that letter, he would always give them an A.
Yeah.
Because the point was, he said, you will now achieve all of that stuff because you're focused on what you do.
The process is the big trophy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a chat with a colleague of mine. I will not name his name because he's still playing. But he had this, he came up with this idea. I was listening to him for an hour, getting bored. He was like, yeah, I will buy 50 apartments and I will get $1,000 per apartment, and this is how I make my money. And he was playing in the Premier League back then. And then after 1 hour, he asked me what my opinion was. I said, do you really want to know? I said, yeah, of course. I said, okay, honestly, if your idea is to make money, it's fine. But if that is your reason to play or to work or whatever, perfect. It's your choice. I said, but if you want to make money, you should work on your first touch and your header. I said, this is what you should work on, because if you do that, you will make 10 times more than this $1,000 per apartment. You're joking, Robin, you're joking. I said, no, I'm not joking, I'm serious. I said, if you fix that, you will be a world-class player.
And did he take your advice?
No, he didn't listen. He didn't listen. But to be fair to him, he had a good career. He had an okay career, but could be better, should be better.
So sorry, Jack, I was going to ask, because it sounds to me that the example you're giving of like Sol Campbell giving you this advice and then you passing on this advice to others is a great example of what a healthy culture sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm interested in terms of, how would you describe a healthy culture? You've given some examples of it, but
if you're open to share your knowledge or what you think is right, I think I've always been like that. I'm never shy to keep my secrets for myself or whatever, because I think if you share, you care, and if people want to take a certain percentage of your knowledge, you're more than welcome to share. I think.
Don't you think it helps you grow as well? I've always believed if you give away everything you know, you have to look elsewhere to know more than everyone else again, and so then you have to push yourself.
Exactly. And but over the years, I've learned. This particular situation is with Marco van Basten told me once. I was trying to be clever back then. I was working with Marco van Basten for 3 years in my case, from the age of 21 till 24-ish. And then I was really in that period of trying to improve as a person and getting better and everything. And then we had a chat, and then I said, because if I help, then I will get better of it. He said, yeah, but Robin, you should not help to get better of it. You should give from your heart. You know what I mean? He said, it makes no sense what you're saying. So I was right in that period of like adjusting everything and putting everything in place. And then he gave me the answer, just with one comment, one sentence. Like, you should give because you want to give and not to get something back. I was like, okay, hang on, this is very interesting. I will keep that in my mind. So along the way, just by talking to people, sometimes even saying stupid things, made me better in a way. And I think you should always ask 50 silly questions. Ask them, just throw them out. You might gain something there. But especially the giving bit, share whatever you have. Now as well, even now in my time with Feyenoord, people tell me, you should not give all your knowledge, because I don't have a position at Feyenoord. And I've been, over the past 2 years, Feyenoord is my first club. I'm a fan of Feyenoord. I've been talking to the president, to the directors, to the kitmen, to the players, to the youth coaches, to every single one, and I keep telling them exactly the same in other words, obviously. And people close by said, yeah, but then people will go away with your knowledge and with your story. I said, yes. I said, that's the whole point, And I know that they will not copy me. They will not take 100% on board. They will take, maybe the youth coach will take 5%, maybe the president will take 15%. But this is what I believe in. This is what I think will bring the club forward. So I share, and I put it on the table, and it's there. This is what I believe is my truth. And then you can take whatever you want. It's like a meal. Eat what you want to eat. And I don't want anything back. I don't want money back. I don't want a position at Feyenoord because I have other things to do. I'm in a different period of my life. I don't want anyone's job. I'm totally independent in that way. And that feels really good. And I know it scares some people being like that, because people want, I notice that people tend to lean towards each other and create a group of people and to do it together, sometimes in a dodgy way. And if you're independent, then it does scare, Jake. I think it does scare if your mind is free, if you don't have any second agenda.
Correct. I wonder how different though that Robin Van Persie is to the Robin Van Persie who was a petulant youth team player causing problems. I think that often when people first start out, whatever their career, and this isn't just about football, everyone starts out selfish because it's about me achieving my aims and my ambitions for my life. And I think it takes time to get to a point where, and I think we would both agree, we're all you're not quite in your 40s yet, but we're in our 40s. And life becomes about building other people up. And it's one of the best feelings. It's almost a better feeling than achieving yourself is helping other people to thrive. But it's hard to do that when you're 15, 16.
No, this is a very deep one, because will you get to this stage without being selfish earlier stages?
So you have to be selfish in the beginning to get the success, to then be selfless and pass it on. Yeah, maybe.
I think so. To actually achieve what you want to achieve, to be able to give back, you have to be selfish. And that is with football as well. It's like everyone is always talking about football is a team sport. You should do it together. Yes, true. But you are defending your position in that team. And if you don't do what you have to do, you're out. Then football is ruthless. And at any business, it's like that. So you have to be selfish and you have to come up for yourself. You have to, in a team, in any business, you have to make sure that your position is there, is safe. Because otherwise you get eaten.
Yep. But do you find that in poor cultures, that kind of selfishness sort of really seeps into the behaviours of everyone around us? Whereas I'd be interested in your view of going into a healthy culture where there is that balance between looking after your own interests but helping others as well.
Yeah, difficult. Difficult to. It's a good question.
Well, I'm interested in, say, like your experience of going into Manchester United. Yeah. So you'd been through a period of at Arsenal where you hadn't been winning a lot, and it had almost felt like there was a certain drift or a malaise, and then you went into an environment where you were expected to win the title. You came in. And there was it seems to me like a very different culture. What was your experience of that?
It was a different world if you compare Arsenal with Manchester United. But I was ready for that world. It was a as a player, as a young player, it was much easier to get into the Arsenal team, into the Arsenal philosophy with the coach like Arsène. And Manchester United is like a beast. You have to perform back in the day. So there was a different experience for me, but I was ready for that, and like all those years of like asking questions and becoming better on all levels did help me to be ready for a challenge like that.
And what would you say was the biggest difference then that you noticed when you went into Manchester United?
The biggest difference was that if you're winning, everything is beautiful. because the impact of Manchester United was bigger in terms of worldwide, in the amount of fans, etc., the size of the club. But if you look at when it doesn't go well, at Arsenal, if it doesn't go well, you have your coach who protects you, you have your players who protect you. The media finds reasons why things didn't really work, etc. But Manchester United, you're on yourself, you're alone. You can, no one protects you. And
is that healthy?
Yeah, well, no, it's tougher, it's ruthless, and I've experienced that in my second year when things weren't going well. I was still scoring 18 goals that second year, scoring 12 for the national team. So it's not a bad season or something. But people were ruthless. It's not good enough. Bang. And then you're on your own. And that was sort of like a period where I was thinking, yeah, but I'm not that bad, I was telling myself, I'm not that bad of a player. I'm still scoring. Okay, maybe I'm not like last season or whatever, but it was just ruthless, hard. And then I had to, in my last season, I had this chat with Louis van Gaal. I think I chatted with you about the Czech, where I had 2 very good seasons with the national team. Then I worked, the season, his first season, my last season at Manchester was not great. And then I had this chat with Louis van Gaal, and then he told me, okay, Robin, our ways will part. I'm the coach, you are the player, and you have to go. Your time is up. I was like, yeah, but I still have a contract. He said, yeah, I don't care. He said,
wow. Did you see it coming?
Ruthless. Yeah, towards the end of it, I saw something coming, but not this ruthless. And the way he said it as well. And then, like a lot of things go through your mind, when you get a message like that. Because I still have a contract. My family was happy. It was my 11th year in England. We love living in England. What's next? My kids going to school. They have their friends and everything. So in like a split second, all these things come across. And how do you react to that? And I said, okay. I said, we will see what happens. I said, that's your opinion. I said, but I have a contract and I'm happy in England and at Manchester United, and my family is as well. So we will see what happens. And I just shook his hand, stood up. I was at the golf club in Meer. Stood up and left it.
And how quickly did you decide that on the training pitch and in games you would attempt to change his mind and prove to him that he's made a mistake?
Yeah. And then, well, on the way back home, I was thinking, okay, this is tough, This is so how do you react to messages like that? That ruthless, that hard, that direct. And then loads of things came through my mind, and we started pre-season. Then I wasn't allowed to play in the 11 against 11. You got a ball and do your own stuff. I was like, okay, hang on. So you try to stay calm and stay cool. You know what I mean? But there's like loads of things happening. You're playing the macho card. Like, okay, it doesn't affect me. It doesn't do this, but it does affect me and my family and my career.
Yeah, sure.
Big time. But I tried to stay cool. But maybe at that point it was good for me to talk to someone outside my inner circle. But I was too stubborn as well to do that. Now, if I look back at it, there were maybe a couple of points in my career where I should have done that. But I was always with these kind of people who just want to help, obviously. I had that feeling like a life coach or a mental trainer. I always had the feeling, yeah, but these people will create problems instead of solving them. So I kept them at distance. And up until today, I never had a session with anyone in that way. But now I'm open to it. And maybe it's partly age, experience. But if I look back at my career, it could have been a good case if I would have talked to someone like that really? At this particular moment, for example.
But it's often said that like the best managers are the best psychologists as well. So who would you say was the best coach you had that got the best out of you as an individual?
Well, I was lucky to have such great coaches, and But Arsène was so intelligent. You could talk to him about anything. And what I learned from him as well, and this is like, I don't think he even realizes that, is that when you talk to Arsène, he's not answering straight away. Maybe you know that. He's always like, he's letting the question in first, then he checks you out when you have a normal conversation. He checks you from the front, from the left, from the right, then he answers. So I was like, I'm way too soon with my answers, And sometimes I think, my answer is too fast, I should have thought about it a bit longer. And then I saw him doing that in interviews and just by chatting to him. I was thinking, okay, I will pick that up from him. That's clever.
So you were learning more than just football from Arsène Wenger?
Yes, very much. And he's a professor in maths, in German, English, such a clever guy. And I was learning as well off the pitch by looking at Bergkamp, even how they had their lunch, Early days, I had my lunch like quick, bang, in, out, always on the go. Yeah. And then I saw these guys, they were putting their jacket on the seat and they were talking before they were eating, they were making jokes. Then they enjoyed their lunch. Then they had a nice cup of coffee. It was just so tranquilo, so relaxed, And I was so everything except relaxed. I was all over the place.
I read a story Ian Wright told that when he shared with Dennis Bergkamp, and he saw him wearing pyjamas, and he said that he started to wear pyjamas because Dennis Bergkamp did on a away trip. So you're in good company in terms of copying him.
Yeah. Well, of course, yeah. Dennis was a very interesting person, character, player. It's like off camera, he's one of the funniest guys you will ever see, especially in English. So funny, so dry. It's ridiculous. It's just when the lights go on, he's shy, almost, but very clever guy, and I learned a lot by just looking at him.
So when you've spent your formative football years with Arsène Wenger, and he's taught you so much more than just football, almost like a father figure. Lots of players talk about him like that. Mm-hmm. How difficult was the conversation the day when you went to him to explain what had to change at Arsenal for you to stay?
Yeah. Well, there was actually before our last decisive chat. That was in Austrian training camp. Before that, we were changing our philosophies of how to bring the club forward. But it was not only between me and Arsène, because it was, like I told you before, there was more happening with Ivan, of course, and then the way he behaved and he handled the whole situation.
Do you want to talk about that?
Well, yeah, maybe one thing, because we talked about it before the Arsenal game, and if I look back at that whole situation, is that, in that situation, I have to look at myself as well, where I could have done better or could have done something differently. And if I look back at that open letter, I didn't mention it during our show with PT. That open letter, I shouldn't have done that. If you look back at that, it is impossible to, in such a delicate, difficult situation of making a transfer after spending so much time at Arsenal, to make a decision to write an open letter to tell my truth in 2 pages is impossible.
And where did you do that? Sorry, Robin, where was the letter?
That was because of Ivan's behaviour.
Yeah,
I was disappointed.
It went to the newspapers, did it? Your letter?
Yeah, I think back then it went to the newspaper because there was not
in the Telegraph. I think they ran out something like that.
Yeah, so I did that, and that was because I was disappointed with Ivan, with his behaviour. But I could not go into detail about what exactly then, because it's just impossible to tell the whole story behind it. And partly was the fact that Arsenal didn't offer me a deal. Okay, but so there was. If I look back at that, I should have done that better.
Because the difficult thing for Arsenal fans, even now, is we talk about the fact they didn't offer you a deal, but then when you released the statement to the papers, you said you've decided not to stay.
Yeah,
and it's that
exactly.
For Arsenal fans, it's still a difficult period
and
to get their heads around.
But
they still don't quite understand it, I don't think.
I can promise you, on my kids, if someone comes with proof that Arsenal offered me a deal, I will give you $1 million now today.
But did you make it almost impossible to offer you a deal because you were so demanding, because you were so desperate to win the Premier League?
No, it was Arsenal's decision not to offer me a deal, and that is up to them. You know, after many conversations, it came clear that we had different ideas.
And what was it that you think was lacking? Like, what did you need from Arsenal at that time to convince you?
I had 7 points where I thought Arsenal could improve, and in my opinion, those 7 points should start with dealing with them straight away to be able to compete with the best teams.
Do you remember what they were?
Yeah, but you know, it doesn't really matter what points they were. What matters is that Ivan decided that he didn't agree on one single point of those 7 points.
Wow.
Which is fair enough. So taking that information on board, so Arsenal doesn't offer me a deal. They didn't agree with my views. You know, and my views were only to help. You know, it was like honest views of how the club should move forward. That's a very clear message. You know, so maybe that's why people interpret it in their own way. But you know, for me, it is not an issue anymore. I'm now talking with you about it for the second time, and that is fine. It is not an issue for me. That's life. That's life at the top. You know, clubs, businesses make decisions. You know, and players as well in this case do as well. And you know, it is. I'm perfectly happy how it ended up. You know, I went to Manchester United. We won the league. You know, so it's perfectly fine for me, and I'm not angry with Ivan. You know, and I'm grateful to have worked with Arsène for 8 years. Yeah. He played such a crucial part in my career. I can honestly say that without his influence, I would not be the player I ended up with in the end. So I'm thankful. I'm happy and thankful. It's just that, you know, there are certain facts you can't look away from. You know, it's just how it was.
And is it hard when you can't talk because you played through injuries, you dedicated yourself every day, you trained hard, you loved the club, loved the fans, loved the manager.
Yeah, I did.
And then when the fallout happens, you just have to kind of accept it. And I always, you know, whether it's football or something else, I think that's a very difficult position for a human being to be in, where you're like, hold on, you've seen 10% of the truth and you've made the other 90% up, you know?
Yeah, but I do sort of realize that people have that judgment ready based on 10%, like you said, and that is how it is. But honestly, I'm grateful for Arsenal for the years I've played there, for Arsène. Well, Ivan and me didn't really click. That can happen as well. But you know, it's a big man's world, and there is a moment where you have to move on. You know, and like I said as well, with sometimes in the top it can be ruthless. You know, sometimes in your favor, sometimes against you. But to come back on this topic as well, how do you deal with that? You know, how do you deal with such things who have such a big impact on your life? You know, and to come back to that, you know, I think key to that is communicating, keep talking, and although some situations can be very difficult, stay open for others. Because I know a lot of colleagues of mine as well who tend to close up. You know, when things become difficult, they close up and they stop to talk to anyone. Yeah. But that is not the solution. You should stay yourself, stay open, keep asking questions, and stay friendly. You know. And
so you made a comment earlier, Robin, where you spoke about when you first, as a young player, you had to know your place in terms of what you could say and what you could challenge. When did you feel that it was your place to go and make these 7 points and challenge the culture and what you saw the club needed to do?
Yeah, that was my period when I was the captain, top scorer. That was the period where I felt that, you know, my views would count.
Right.
And as a 20-year-old kid, your views of how the club should move forward don't really count. You know, then you have to fight for your place, be quiet and learn, and be a better player. Try to be a better player every day. But I was 28 back then, 29. You know, I felt, you know, that it was my right to give my honest opinion.
Sure. So there's a lovely phrase that Sven-Göran Eriksson used to employ, a guy called Willie Raylo, that worked with him as a psychologist, and it was Willie Raylo's phrase of cultural architects within a dressing room, the guys that really shape the culture and influence it.
Yeah.
And I'm interested in terms of that period that you were obviously a cultural architect because of your credibility of being captain and top scorer and the experience. How else did you recruit architects to come with you to try and change what you saw obviously needed to be done?
What do you mean exactly by that?
Well, so it sounds like you were isolated on your own in terms of that the club decided to reject you from the organisation. Whereas, do you feel you could have recruited other characters within that dressing room that had equal weight or equal credibility to enhance your argument?
Yeah, good point. For example, some colleagues did came up and did wanted to support me in this matter, but I said no, because for one reason is that I didn't want to put them in a difficult place. Right. I didn't want to put them in my place because it was my right to speak out, and I was the captain, of that team. So, in my opinion, if I would bring 2 or 3 other guys who shared my opinion, it would put them in a difficult place. And I said, it's really nice of you, and I will not name them now, but these guys, sort of believed in what I thought should be done to improve as well. But I said, I will not do that because, I will take the blame. I will live with the consequences, whatever they are. But I don't want to put you guys into this position.
So I think what's interesting, and you've seen this from your time spent with football clubs, is that you have, a director of football or a chairman and a manager. It's not an easy thing, is it, for a football club to say, actually, that footballer, that individual player can help to change the culture of this football club. But maybe that's the healthiest thing. The healthiest thing to do at a football club is to take the input from an experienced pro, a 19-year-old who can tell you what the pathway is like from the academy, from the person that serves the lunch. Everyone, I think, not just in football, but in life, everyone should be able to add to a culture.
I think so too.
Well,
don't protect and reject.
That's what they often say. If in the more senior your role in an organisation, the more you become like the Queen, where you assume the world smells of fresh paint everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Because when you walk in, everybody makes it. Clive Woodward used to talk about it, that the trouble is when you're a head coach, everyone tries harder in the gym, everyone runs a bit faster.
Yeah.
So you never see the truth.
The question is, what's happening when you're not in the gym?
It's a very good point. It's a very good point. But at the clubs, they tend to have to sort of create that feeling like, okay, you are a football player, you should stick to playing football. Well, I am more of the type of guy, even the kidman, his opinion, I would like to know. Yeah. Especially him, because he's right in the middle of that team. And what is the reason why some presidents or people in higher functions behave like that? And the only reason I can come up with is that they're trying to protect their own position. Sure. And is that big? Is that a big way of thinking? No, of course not. Sure. And that should change, in my opinion. You should listen, because you're all in it together. And in a smaller version, I like when I was mid-20s, I just realized, because early days I was like, yeah, okay, this is my position. I have to try to play, and I don't really talk to the manager. Mm. And then at one point I was talking to Arsène. At first I was scared to talk to him. And then at one point I realized, like, no, hang on. So we are this team. We have the coach. He has his staff. You have the medical staff. You have Mr. Dean in the first couple of years around. I said we should all work together. So I should really start opening up to the coach, because we are pulling the same. So we are working together on the same target. So why there's no reason for me to be scared of the coach? Why should I be scared of him? So that was the moment where I realized, like, okay, hang on. I would just ask him questions. I would just talk to him, like.
It's almost like you realise that your job is more than just doing your job.
Exactly.
This is actually a common theme, I think, with the conversation we've had with Robin. Whether it's writing down notes, whether it is going and seeing Arsène Wenger about the future of the football club, whether it is taking on board criticism from Louis van Gaal that you're going to leave Man United and trying to retain your place there. The recurring theme, I think, is that there was a moment in your career where you realised you have to take the responsibility. Yeah. No one else is going to run your career for you.
Yes. Yeah, and that is what I did when I was about 24, 25, halfway. I realized, like, okay, and I actually had this chat last week, funny enough, seriously, with my son. So my son plays at Feyenoord. He played against Ajax under 14. He was on the bench. He didn't play. So in the car on the way back, he was like a bit moody, disappointed, complaining a little bit about others, about the coach, etc. And then I said, but Shaquille, I said, you sound like a loser, you know, if you talk like this in a way, you sound like you lost. I said, you are blaming him, you're blaming her, you're blaming this, you're blaming everything. I said, but I don't hear one single thing about yourself. I said, winners, I said, they take control and they blame themselves and they look where they can improve. Yeah. And this is what you should be thinking about. So I didn't tell him what he should think about. You should ask yourself the question, are you a loser or are you a winner? I said, for me, it doesn't matter. I said, because I'm your dad. I said, the only job I have and your mom has is when you're 20, that you're a good boy, that you're ready for life. You know, you can make your mistakes, you can do what you want. I love you for the same amount. It doesn't matter for me if you make it as a football player or not. I said, but you say that this is your passion. So you should take control of your life and stop complaining, because it sounds like a loser. I said, and I don't mind. If you want to be a loser, be a loser. I still love you as much. I said, it doesn't matter for me. I said, but if you want to be a winner, take control of your life and stop complaining about others. And then I watched him train the next morning. My wife said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to watch this session. 2 days later, actually, because they played on Saturday and Monday morning. So I'm there sitting, cold, hoodie on. I'm looking and I see this tiger training, running, working. And I was like, okay. He realized he has to take control of his life. He's 13, huh?
That's the podcast right there, by the way. Yeah. Isn't it? That is it. That is everything high performance podcast is
parental
about.
Advice and everything. But did anyone ever have that conversation with you?
Well, in like bits and pieces.
Stages, yeah.
Yeah, over the years. And yeah, what I liked about, for example, Arsène, is that he never really judged me. You know, it was almost like a parent in a way. Because my son, it doesn't help if you judge people constantly, if you tell them off and if you say you have to do this. It doesn't work like that. You know, it's their process. You have to respect their process of your kids or your friends, and you can advise them. You can guide them for a certain way, but in the end, they have to make their mistakes. They will make their mistakes. Let them make it, and then they decide what they do with it. You know, but sometimes it's good to give them a guideline. But Arsène as well. Arsène said, why are you not a top player? You're still not a top player. I said, okay, tell me why I'm not a top player. No, I'm not telling you. You have to find out yourself. You know? So I had conversations like that. He said, you have to ask yourself the right questions. He said, look around you. He said, you saw all these top players, but you're not one of them.
Did he?
Yeah.
And your reaction can go two ways there. You can either deal with that and make yourself a top player, or that can break some people. Yeah,
and then I started to look at Perez, how he played. Look at Ljungberg, how he made his runs. Look at Dennis. Look at Thierry. Look at Vieira. I was thinking, he's right. I'm so far off. You know, these guys are on such a level. That's where I want to go. But he was not forcing me into it, you know?
You had to find the answers.
I had to find the answers myself. And
Isn't that brilliant coaching? Isn't that the art of great coaching?
I think so too.
Pose a question and then let you answer
it. Exactly. But that is the perfect way, because you have to feel it. You know, if you see it or if you hear it, okay, sometimes it can be enough, but most times it's not enough. You have to feel it. You have to find out yourself, you know, and along the way you can make mistakes, you can struggle, but in the end you decide if you want to be a winner or a loser. It's your decision, you know.
Yeah.
Love it. Right, we're going to finish with some quick fire questions.
Okay. Yeah.
What is the absolutely unacceptable behaviour that you just don't tolerate? What's the one thing that really winds you up?
For my kids, you mean, or
in life?
Well, I think as a person, it defines you of who you are, how you behave towards people you don't think you need. You know, I think that is what defines, that is the status of a person, in my opinion. So, for example, if you're in a restaurant and you're arrogant towards the waitress, for example, or to the people who help you, and you're one of them, I think you're not in a right. Then I don't think you're a good person, you know. Or especially towards the people who you don't tend to need, you know. If you're a good guy, just be good because you're good, not because you think you might need someone. Or
good.
So, what would you say, Robin, are the 3 non-negotiable behaviours that you and people around you have to buy into?
Yeah, and well, I think as well, you have to be polite. Polite, nice, same. Have to have manners.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what I tell my kids as well. But this is quickfire. It's not really going well. It's quickfire.
It's fine. What are the 3?
Okay, politeness, manners, and desire to achieve something.
Very good. What advice would you give to a teenage Robin Van Persie just starting his career?
Just relax. Just relax. Have a breather.
Enjoy it. Enjoy the journey.
Enjoy the ride. Yeah.
How important is legacy to you?
Important. Important because I like the idea that I had an influence on some people along the way, like a positive influence. So that is some sort of legacy.
And not just related to football, but this is related to life, okay? What is your one golden rule to living a high-performance life?
Good question again. Golden rule. Try to live in one world. That is very difficult, especially nowadays. Distractions all over the place. But try to live that world what you choose for. Then you're able to compete at the highest level, you know, because you tend to mix it up and to be the best, for example, player you can be, and then but there's a nice party there as well, and let's go to the party and let's do this and let's do that. You try to live in 5-6 worlds. Try to, especially during your prime time, during your career, try to live in one.
It comes back to taking responsibility, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Have you worked out your greatest failure yet? Maybe you just didn't have one, man.
No, of course I had.
Well, let's imagine your son fails, yeah?
Yeah.
What would you say to him once he's failed at something? What's the best way to react to that moment? Because I'm a real firm believer that failure is healthy. Failure is a good thing.
Yeah, and failure, you should make mistakes. You should. I'm telling my kids as well, and we are trying to raise them very openly, and we're trying to sort of send them the message that they can make mistakes, can fail, but that, you know, whatever they do. And my daughter, she rides a horse now 5 times a week, and she's really serious about it. I said, okay. I said, you can fail. You can even fall off the horse. You can fall off. It's fine. But you know, once you found your passion, do your best. Do your best, your maximum. Give your maximum, whatever that is. Then it's always fine, you know. And then you can fail, or you can fall off as many times as you want. But do your best.
Brilliant. Do you know what? That conversation was exactly what I hoped it would be. So many lovely little bits of information, right?
Thank you. It's been
Cheers.
really
No,
nice.
thank you guys. I really liked it. Thank you very
Robin.
much.
Top man.
Thanks, mate.